The camera opens with the familiar buzz of a courtroom. Benches filled, murmurs fading as the bailiff's voice echoes. All rise. The Honorable Judge Hartwell presiding. Judge Miriam Hartwell, known for her razor-sharp wit and zero-nonsense demeanor, slides into her seat, adjusts her reading glasses, and scans the case file. "We're here on the matter of Henriquez versus Boykins," she announces, tapping the edge of the folder with her polished pen. "A motor vehicle accident with complications. Let's hear it." The accident. Mr. Luis Henriquez, a slim man with a stack of papers under his arm, steps forward. His voice is calm but determined. "Your Honor, on December 3rd last year, I was stopped at a red light. Traffic ahead started to move, so I accelerated slowly. Then bam, I was hit from the back by Mr. Boykins." Judge Hartwell turns to the defendant. "Mr. Boykins, do you dispute that you rear-ended the plaintiff?" "No, Your Honor." Boykins admits, hands folded tightly. "I tapped his bumper. It wasn't a big impact." "A tap." The judge arches a brow. "Plaintiff says he was hit, not politely nudged." Boykins swallows. "Okay, I hit him, but we resolved it at the scene." Judge Hartwell leans forward. "Let's talk about that." Henriquez lifts a single, folded paper. "He begged me not to call the police. Said he didn't have insurance and didn't want trouble. He promised to pay for my repairs." Boykins nods uneasily. And Henriquez continues. "To show he was serious, he wrote this agreement. He even handed me the title to his car as collateral." The courtroom audience murmurs. Judge Hartwell snaps her fingers at the bailiff. "Bring that here." She scans the paper with practice speed. "So you, Mr. Boykins, voluntarily handed over your car title?" Boykins nods again. "Yes, panicked. I didn't want fines. Or worse. Because you were driving without insurance on a public road," she summarizes. "Yes, Your Honor." She clicks her pen shut. "At least you're honest." 1 month later, Henriquez continues. "By December 31st, he hadn't paid me a single dollar. So I went to retrieve the car. I had the agreement, the title, everything." Boykins jumps in. "But it's my sister's old car. I wasn't ready to give it away. He didn't give me enough time." Judge Hartwell holds up a hand. "Stop. Both of you." She turns to the court clerk. "Let me get this straight. The plaintiff had the written agreement and the car title in his possession?" "Yes, Your Honor." The clerk confirms. The judge nods slowly. "So you tried to claim your car back, Mr. Boykins, without paying what you owed? Using a car you had already signed over as collateral?" Boykins sighs. I didn't think he'd actually take it. I thought we'd just talk. And then the police showed up," Henriquez adds. "And they impounded the car entirely because ownership was in dispute." Judge Hartwell nods. "Classic. A mess made by one man driving with no insurance." The counterclaim. Boykins clears his throat. "My counterclaim, Your Honor. My car is still impounded. I can't afford the storage fees. Because he tried to take the car, now I owe the city hundreds. I want him to cover that." A hush falls. Judge Hartwell's expression hardens. "Absolutely not." Boykins stiffens. "Your Honor."
No.
"Sit down and listen." The judge's ruling, first half. She begins her monologue like a seasoned performer. "Courts do not reward people who drive without insurance. You created this entire situation. If you'd had liability coverage, the minimum required by law, your insurer would have handled the plaintiff's damages. We wouldn't be wasting taxpayer time right now." Boykins lowers his gaze. "Your counterclaim," she declares, "is dismissed with prejudice. You cannot benefit from your own negligence." The courtroom murmurs approval. Henriquez hands over a folder. "Here are pictures of my car's damage, before and after." Judge Hartwell flips through the images. Suddenly, she stops. "Why do you have photos of the interior of your car? And is this a photo of your cup holder?" Henriquez blushes. I wanted to show I take good care of my car." "Sir," she says flatly, "he hit your bumper, not your beverage storage compartment." The audience laughs. Even Boykins cracks a smile. Do you have any photos of the actual damage? Yes, Your Honor. They're at the back. She finds them, studies them, and nods. That's more like it. Turning to the bailiff. Look up the market value of a 1990 Benton compact sedan. He taps his tablet. Got it. Judge Hartwell lifts her gaze. Here's the twist in this whole mess. The car you rear-ended, Mr. Boykins, is worth more than your own car. Gasps across the room. Repairing the plaintiff's car is cheaper than retrieving yours from Impound. And ironically, the title you gave him is probably worth less than the damages. Boykins looks defeated. Therefore, Judge Hartwell concludes, judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of, she announces the precise repair cost, slams the gavel, and adds, and I strongly recommend you buy insurance before you drive another block. Henriquez nods gratefully. Boykins sighs. The courtroom disperses. The courtroom settles as Judge Hartwell flips through the repair estimates again. The tension is palpable. Boykins fidgets nervously in his chair. Henriquez clutches his folder, confident but wary. Mr. Henriquez, the judge begins. I see you've submitted 3 estimates for repairs. The lowest is $2,400. The highest nearly $3,100. Explain the differences. Henriquez opens a folder. Your Honor, the lower one was from a small shop nearby. The middle one is from a certified Honda repair center, which uses original parts. The highest estimate included a full repaint and minor bodywork to prevent rust in the future. Judge Hartwell taps her pen. I like thoroughness, but I'm not paying for future rust. The damage was from a bumper collision, not long-term decay. Boykins mutters. But the estimate seems exaggerated. It's just a bumper. The judge slams her hand gently on the desk. Sir, you caused this problem. You hit him. Accept responsibility. Don't argue the obvious. Judge Hartwell shifts to the counterclaim issue. Now, the city impounded the car, she continues. Mr. Boykins claims he can't pay the impound fees. Let's see the facts. A court officer hands over a printout. Henriquez leans in, eyebrows raised. The total impound fees, $450. The judge narrows her eyes. So, let me get this straight. You gave him the title, agreed to pay for damages? He defaulted. And you want him to cover your own storage fees? Boykins shifts in his seat. Well, I thought. Thought what? Judge Hartwell interrupts. That you could bully the system? No. Fees stand. You were responsible for your own car's costs, including impound. End of story. Just when it seems the case is wrapping up, Henriquez's lawyer interjects. Your Honor, there's one more complication, he says. The title Mr. Boykins gave to Mr. Henriquez, upon checking DMV records, it turns out the car was not fully in Boykins' name. It had been transferred from an estate last year, but paperwork wasn't updated. The courtroom gasps. Boykins pales. What? No, that can't be. Judge Hartwell leans back, steepling her fingers. Interesting. So, the plaintiff may not technically own the car. Henriquez stands, calm but firm. Your Honor, I acted in good faith, relying on the title and written agreement. The law protects people who reasonably rely on documents provided to them. I had no reason to suspect otherwise. The judge smiles faintly. Ah, good faith. That's important. Mr. Boykins, you created this mess, and now your failure to properly maintain title paperwork is coming back to bite you. That's the law's way of balancing things. Judge Hartwell begins her final ruling, voice firm and deliberate. 1. Counterclaim dismissed. Boykins cannot recover impound fees. 2. Damages awarded. Henriquez is awarded $2,650 for repairs to his vehicle. The middle estimate, using certified parts. 3. Title dispute. Henriquez may keep the car for now due to good faith reliance, but Boykins is ordered to correct the title within 30 days or face further legal consequences. 4. Insurance reminder. Mr. Boykins, you are hereby ordered to maintain full liability insurance for all vehicles you operate. This court will not tolerate reckless, uninsured driving. Boykins looks defeated. Henriquez exhales, relieved. As the gavel bangs, the camera pans the courtroom. Henriquez walks out, smiling, clutching the title to the car. Boykins sits in silence, reflecting on the consequences of negligence. Judge Hartwell scribbles notes for her next case, muttering, "Always check the title, always check insurance, and never, ever trade papers at a red light." The bailiff announces, "Court is adjourned." The scene fades out as Henriquez's repaired car drives off into the sunset, glinting under the winter sunlight. A quiet victory for patience, documentation, and good faith. The courtroom had emptied hours ago, yet the tension from the morning's drama seemed to linger in the air. Luis Henriquez walked out into the chilly December afternoon, the winter sunlight reflecting off the hood of his newly repaired Honda Civic. His mind, however, wasn't on the sun or the sparkling paint. It was still on the courtroom, the gavel, and the finality of Judge Hartwell's ruling. He had won the case, legally speaking, but the entire incident had left a mark on him, one that no amount of repaired body panels could erase. Henriquez breathed in deeply, feeling the crisp air fill his lungs. The city streets were busy, people rushing to holiday errands, and the faint scent of roasted chestnuts from a nearby street vendor mingled with the aroma of exhaust fumes. He had always loved the chaos of the city, the unpredictable rhythm of life, but today, the chaos had taken the form of a man's carelessness behind the wheel. That man, of course, was Mr. Boykins. Boykins, meanwhile, sat on a worn bench outside the courthouse, staring at his hands as though they might somehow explain everything. The bitter winter wind tugged at his coat, but he didn't move. He had tried to win, or at least recover some ground, but Judge Hartwell had made it abundantly clear. He had no standing when he came to court with unclean hands, driving without insurance, failing to maintain proper paperwork, and then attempting to manipulate a situation to his advantage. It was a trifecta of legal missteps that even the most lenient judge could not excuse. And yet, even in defeat, he felt a strange mixture of relief and humiliation. Relief that the ordeal was over, humiliation that it had gone so far. A police officer who had witnessed the original impoundment of Boykins' car walked past and tipped his hat. "Hope you learned your lesson," he called casually. Boykins nodded mutely, though the words didn't really reach him. Lessons, he thought, were more painful when you had to pay for them with your own mistakes. Back inside the courthouse, Henriquez had stayed to finalize the paperwork. The clerk handed him the official document, the certified judgment ordering Mr. Boykins to pay $2,650 for repairs. Henriquez carefully placed it in his folder, next to the title of the car. The stack of papers represented more than money. It represented justice, careful documentation, and the painstaking patience that had kept him from simply giving up when faced with a man who refused to honor his obligations. But the victory was bittersweet. Judge Hartwell's words echoed in his mind, particularly the emphasis on good faith. The title to the car, the agreement, the photos, and the documented estimates. All of it had mattered because Henriquez had relied on them honestly, without deception. He realized that in a world where people often cut corners, legal systems sometimes function like a moral compass, rewarding honesty in unexpected ways. Henriquez also had to think about the DMV's involvement. Since the title had originally belonged to Boykins but was not properly updated from the estate, Henriquez would eventually have to ensure the title was legally transferred. This meant more paperwork, more waiting, and more bureaucratic headaches. Still, he was willing to endure it. After all, the alternative had been losing a car that he had rightfully relied upon as his own, at least temporarily. While Henriquez dealt with paperwork, Boykins' mind raced through every step he had taken wrong. Each memory was a sting. Handing over the car title, pretending he would pay for damages, arguing over impound fees, and finally, sitting in front of Judge Hartwell and hearing his counterclaim dismissed. He knew he could no longer ignore the consequences of his actions. Boykins decided, after hours of silent contemplation, that he needed to start making amends, not only legally but personally. First, he called Henriquez. The conversation was awkward at first. His voice was tentative, almost apologetic. "Mr. Henriquez," he began. I realize now I made a lot of mistakes. I was careless and I should have had insurance. I understand why the court ruled the way it did. Henriquez, cautious but fair, replied, I appreciate the acknowledgement. What matters now is ensuring the repairs are handled and that the title is properly transferred. Boykins agreed, then made an unusual proposal. I want to make this right, not just with money, but by helping in any way I can. If there's paperwork or anything the court needs, I'll handle it immediately. Henriquez considered the offer. It was rare for someone who had been so negligent to voluntarily take responsibility. After a moment, he nodded. All right, let's do it the right way then. I'll meet you at the DMV to make sure the title is corrected. 2 days later, Henriquez and Boykins met at the Department of Motor Vehicles. The air was stale with the scent of printer ink and disinfectant. People shuffled through lines, muttering about forms, insurance, and fines. Henriquez carried the original title, the court judgment, and the repair receipts, while Boykins held the paperwork proving his identity and the estate transfer documents. The DMV clerk, a stern woman with reading glasses perched on the tip of her nose, reviewed the documents carefully. So, she said, looking between the two men, you're here to finalize the ownership transfer? Yes, Henriquez confirmed. This car was hit in an accident, and an agreement was made. The title was given to me in good faith. The court ruled in my favor. The clerk nodded, typing rapidly into her system. We need to verify a few things before the title can be legally transferred, given the estate issue. Boykins, unusually patient, waited while Henriquez explained everything. I realize now that I acted irresponsibly, he said quietly. I should have had insurance. I should have been honest from the start. I hope this can be resolved so that there's no further dispute. The clerk glanced up, a hint of approval in her expression. Good. Cooperation always helps. We'll need signatures, notarizations, and a final court certification. Then, this vehicle will be legally recognized as Mr. Henriquez's. Hours later, with the pen strokes complete and notarized, Henriquez held the newly corrected title. Relief washed over him. The car was truly his, and the legal mess was behind him, or so he thought. Just as Henriquez and Boykins were leaving the DMV, a man in a sharply tailored suit approached them. Excuse me, he said, flashing a business card. I'm an investigator for an insurance company. We were reviewing accident claims from last year and noticed an inconsistency with this vehicle's accident report. May I ask a few questions? Henriquez frowned but agreed. Boykins looked pale. The investigator explained that someone had submitted a fraudulent repair estimate under the same VIN number months before, unrelated to the accident. The company wanted to verify that Henriquez's claim was legitimate. Henriquez produced the court judgment, the original repair invoices, and the photographs. The investigator examined everything, nodding slowly. Well documented. Seems your claim is legitimate. The court ruling aligns with our records. You're clear. Boykins exhaled, relieved, though embarrassed by the scrutiny. I guess even now things follow me, he muttered. Henriquez laughed softly. Sometimes justice has layers. Let's just be glad this one is over. Weeks passed. Henriquez's Honda Civic gleamed, parked safely in his driveway. He had learned several lessons. The importance of legal documentation, the value of patience, and the power of good faith. He also realized that even when people make mistakes, they can be held accountable without destroying their lives. Boykins, meanwhile, made changes in his life. He purchased full liability insurance, attended a defensive driving course, and began documenting every vehicle he owned. He even volunteered at a local community center, teaching young drivers the importance of responsible behavior on the road. His reputation had been tarnished, but through action he began to repair it. Months later, the two men met again, this time in a neutral setting, a small coffee shop near the courthouse. There was no tension, only a mutual understanding of what had happened and what could be learned from it. Henriquez smiled, stirring his coffee. Funny how a bumper can teach so many lessons. Boykins chuckled, shaking his head. Yeah, and I hope the next lesson I learn doesn't come with a court date. Henriquez nodded. Agreed. But at least we can say we survived one. As Judge Hartwell prepared for her next case, she reflected on Henriquez versus Boykins in her private chambers. The case had been more than a simple rear-end collision. It had been a study in human behavior, responsibility, and morality. The legal system had worked as intended, rewarding honesty, punishing negligence, and ensuring the outcome was fair, despite the complications. She made a note in her file: good faith matters, paperwork matters, insurance matters. Never underestimate the power of diligence and patience. And somewhere in the city, Henriquez drove past a red light, this time fully alert, a repaired bumper glinting in the sun, smiling at the thought that even in chaos, order and justice could prevail.